And it is time for The Way It Is. We're glad you're watching. Be part of our conversation this morning. Of course, you're focusing primarily on security today. It's become a big issue, and of course, you've seen what the country has witnessed over the past several days. Joining us in studio as always, Hassan Omar, Senator Mombasa County, Benji, Ndolo, and I must say, you look like someone. I don't know whether you are choosing to announce which side you lean on now that we've been having the Pusetu Kotu wars. Perhaps you have. I'm
a very civil man. I will not say such things as yes and jump on the couch.
But you really look like that
I look
guy.
like a Kotu guy?
No,
yeah,
at all.
You said to me, pussy, too.
Oh my God.
Good morning.
Ambrose, Weda, thank you all for joining us. How have you been?
Very well. For me, first also, despite the lots on, Saturday my wife
congratulations,
my baby girl.
Yeah, we saw that on Twitter. Congratulations.
So I think that was the highlight. But at the very end of the day, on that very Saturday, we
lost lives.
We lost lives again in Mombasa. So I think quite a saddening, awakening of the kind of society our children live in of late, or will have to live in and to contend with.
Congratulations for baby girl.
Thank you.
The name?
Does she have a name?
She's named after my mother.
Who's called?
Aisha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Congrats again, bro. It was a decent weekend, quiet, sad because, as we've said on this show many times, a lot of these terrorist attacks are predictable. They are going to happen. They are coordinated. That's why you have them in 2 days. That's why you have them in two geographically closely proximated areas in about 30 minutes of each other. And so we have to look at our response, we have to look at our intelligence gathering, we have to look at our policy positions and strategy, our activities in Somalia, and we certainly, the Kenya Defence Forces, must not be seen as an occupier force. I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but this was very disheartening.
How are you?
My weekend was very good, although busy. At home, I was trying to prepare the children to get ready for school.
Oh yeah, today.
And Saturday afternoon, I was addressing about 200 young people at St. Mary's ACK, motivating them on general life, how to look at things, how to stand. Sunday, I was in a place called Nguluni, on your way to Kangundo.
Kangundo, yeah, that's my area.
To preside over Rambe for a church. What's called social responsibility instead of the bombs that are coming. And then also to grieve with our colleagues and tell them it will cool.
You should have invited me.
Again, it was a good week. I had my book coming out, and I felt just on top of the
Ideal lawyer. Ambrose.
Talk to us about the book a little.
Yeah, before we get to the security, let's talk about this ideal lawyer. And Hassan Omar should be the first to read this book. Is Hassan your ideal lawyer?
There are aspects of Hassan, like this book essentially deals with the things that you are not taught at law school, but which are pivotal to your career success. Things which you leave law school, nobody has taught you. And I'll give you an example. Like if you look at chapter 7, I deal with the question of grooming. You understand?
Yes.
If you look at Hassan Omar, look at his head. He was not born that way. That is a unique hairstyle. Nobody taught him. If you look at my dear lady, if you look at John Smart,
James Smart.
James Smart,
He's smart.
that thing, nobody teaches you, but when you look at it, so that is there. If you look at chapter
How come you didn't mention
you're just doing their trolley action.
That is hilarious.
At chapter 31.
Everyone but Benji.
If you look at
I'll deal with you in debate. I'll deal with you in debate.
At chapter 31, I'm dealing with publicity. Do you understand?
Yes.
When you leave law school, nobody tells you that you need to have publicity. The one that Hassan Omar has had over the years, so that he's known in my village, yet I'm not known. Do you understand?
Yes.
So you tell the lawyer you need this, and how do you do it?
All right.
Do you understand? We have recommended
how
about
much is the selling price? Because then it's for young lawyers, so it means
will be about 4,000 shillings.
Yeah, that's fair.
For instance, why Hassan is here and why I'm here. Some people ask, are you paid? when you go to KTN in the morning, are you paid? I say, you people don't know what KTN is giving us an Omar. You don't know. That's why you're asking that question. So all this.
I take a flight
and
back
I recommend, I tell them.
And we thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Somebody doesn't know. Somebody asks, are you paid? If you say I'm not paid, say, then why bother? But if you tell them that I gain more, and I've given them one of the most consistently well-groomed lawyer in this country, is who? You like it or you don't like it, it's Charles Njonjo.
Sir Charles Njonjo.
Sir Charles Njonjo. No. Consistently groomed over the years. Not that you buy your Mutumba one day.
He came to support me.
He
came to support me for Senate.
Yes.
He says he has only supported 2 politicians publicly.
Yes.
Raila Odinga and Hassan Omar.
Yes.
So I think I followed in his footsteps.
Brilliant.
So he also deals with ethics,
Yes.
discipline,
Oh, that's good.
and so on and so forth. It's to fill a gap which has not been.
Some say it's one suit.
This is the author's copy.
I want to be the first one to buy autographed copy.
Okay, great.
Brilliant. Now we are off to a good start. and you can always tackle Benji's issues somewhere into the chapters as we continue. Yes. You can unravel it, as we go.
Especially now they are truly thing.
Chapter 6.
This one.
of the constitutional lawyer.
That was not a smart move, Benji, today with that shirt. Not after May the 1st.
I love the shirt. I do me.
But seriously matters are now security. We've talked about this a lot, numerous times. You know, we've done many stories about it. And I think today's conversation needs to have some way forward, solutions, as James would say, in as far as what do we do now? Because this does not only stop with the government. It also comes down to the people. But of course the government has the biggest role to play, then the security organs. Where are we now, in your opinion, Hassan Omar, and where do we go from here?
First and foremost, my condolences once again.
Yeah.
To all, both in the attacks in Mombasa and those in Nairobi. The unfortunate and indiscriminate nature of terrorism reared its head this weekend. Those who've buried the dead, I am quite sometimes encouraged. I remember in Mombasa on Saturday evening, actually at the hospital, so the families of the deceased were the ones encouraging us to keep the faith, saying they've lost their relatives, but they hope, they know that the others' responsibilities, particularly on the leadership, myself, the governor, Hassan Joho, and the myriad others of leaders, is an arduous one. But what encourages me most is the fact that this subsequent, almost persistence, might be the basis that the security agencies will climb down its high tower to be able to accommodate alternative views. I remember when I was in Boston with the Prime Minister, we said that we cannot just have rhetoric. You get hit once, you say our nose has been blooded, but we are undeterred or whatever. They are smearing blood on your nose and they are smearing blood on your face, and you continue to give the same rhetoric. I think it's high time that we have a program, and I can tell you for a fact, CORD does have a program. We have a comprehensive strategy towards combating the entirety of the intervention. And what we will do right now is to have an urgent meeting of the CORD coalition so that we can validate this strategy, notwithstanding. And it's for the government to take it or leave it, but we will consistently pursue a strategy that we think will resonate and has results with those elements that Benji talked about, from the proactive security to the reactive security, citizen participation, the engagements in Somalia, challenging the narrative, the propaganda, and many other components that makes security a more proactive, progressive strategy, so that we are not constantly, being treated to the marwas of this world telling us how they've arrested 100, 200 people. I probably will arrest another 200 Muslims in the next couple of days in Nairobi. I think these strategies are just
So just to clarify, you're saying in coming days, CORD will announce options, strategy, way forward on how to tackle and deal with the insecurity? We will have
we are convening, because we had agreed with the party leader that we will have a convening of CORD, just to ensure that we devise security strategies, because some of these counties that are being hit, whether we like it or not, are CORD-led counties. Yet the mandate of national security is still the mandate of the national government. Mombasa County, Garissa County, Nairobi County, these are CORD-dominated or CORD-led counties. So therefore, we want to have a program that tends to respond to this challenge that apparently appears to be, getting more and more complex by the day. The strategies are failing us. In fact, the message this weekend, we put a small device at the heart of your tourism. Outside a hotel, we bombed your major capital, we bombed the second city, and what else does one need? There's need for a critical look. The audacity is quite boggling.
Well, I'm not going to play politics with national security matters. I'm not a politician per se. And I'm not saying the senator is playing politics.
But that's what you just said.
You've said the exact same thing.
Exactly.
I just want to be as impartial and as objective as possible. The truth of the matter, Smart and Sophia, let's start from the point of Kenyans feel fearful and uncertain because these attacks are so sporadic, so unpredictable, ridiculous if you may, from a Tuesday afternoon to a Sunday morning to a Sunday afternoon, in church, on the highway, in hotels, in schools, kindergartens, etc. So this is really something that we have to do more than just give cliches and tough talk and rhetoric. That's really the first point. However, I must say that we, as somebody who has studied psychology, we do have a bigger problem in this country. And the bigger problem as well is the people themselves. I can assure you that by Thursday afternoon, we will have forgotten about the attack of yesterday. It's one of the most peculiar and understandable things about the Kenyan populace is this short-term mentality and amnesia of the highest order where we're so discoordinated. Kenyans totally lack focus. There's so many different things going on, I guess, as well. The Anglo-Lee sayings, the skirt of, I think, Linda Okello, or whatever her name is. I mean, just look at the way, as a country, we lack focus. So the discussion has been on the skirt of a police lady, the consequences to her, the different rhetoric in the pass-out parades, while the sleeper cells are grouping and regrouping and organizing and daily hitting and taking down very innocent people. And so in the words of one of the commentators last night, Mutuma Matthew, we're now getting to the point where you get into a bus and you don't know if you're going to come out with your legs. This is serious stuff. And so we must get beyond the national jokey, laissez-faire attitude as a country. I've seen people like Mwenda Mbinjiwe, a security analyst. The fact that people like Mwenda are speaking on the outside as experts, people like Simiu Werunga, while people like Joe Lenku and Boroki are on the inside as establishment figures, tells you that we need to have a lot of interactive and progressive change, because do the authorities inspire confidence in Kenyans to feel that, things are in control? These are the questions we must ask, and therefore we must embrace a new way if we're going to save blood and lives. Because I can tell you this, lastly, Smart. With these terror gangs, as we've said many times, they can actually do this for 10 years. They can do this every day for 6 months. Believe you me.
Okay.
You just need to study it.
Ambrose.
Yes, I would like to tell Kenyans and my colleagues that the question of security is not a government question. It is a total question to all of us. And therefore, it's not a blame game. It is not where you find who to blame. Because it is built. Look at when the Twin Tower was hit. The Americans were not in Afghanistan. They built the networks in Afghanistan. By the time they woke up, the Twin Tower was down. And they decided that we have to walk the talk, we must go the long way. By the time Kenya was going into Somalia, we had suffered a series of pirating problems at the sea. Quite a number. And it was graduating now into abducting tourists and so on. This was because Al-Shabaab had built a strong network in Somalia. So that We had not provoked them, we had not gone to Somalia, we had left them on their own, and they said, we must make money, we must destabilize these people. The only solution is to get rid of Al-Shabaab, and the only way to get rid of it is to have a government in Somalia. It appears the only way to have a government in Somalia is to shoot that government into power. Lives will be lost, sacrifices will be made, but the way the Americans have made their sacrifices, they are safe. Kenyans, we must be prepared to make those sacrifices. What the terrorists want, and you can see the terrorism is basically you start creating fear. For them to be so intense now, it means that their base has been hit, and they want us to be so fearful that we tell our own government, stop, bring the troops back. We shall have withdrawn. They rebuild the networks, they attack us again, and we are down. I would call upon Kenyans that let us be each other's keeper, let us be our brother's keeper, let us up our security. How do we up it? Me and you. I see sometimes I walk into buildings and the security people tell, hey, habari mkubwa. You tell them, you are endangering my life by saying mkubwa, yet you don't know. One time I went to USAID in Ruaraka with a very senior American official. Very senior, I think it was number 2 in that station. Then we were taken through scrutiny with him. So when I went in my usual Kenyan big man syndrome, I asked him, how can they do this where they know you? They said, when I'm coming in, they do not know whether I'm acting on my own or under compulsion. Therefore, I must go through the checks. Do you understand? So I learned it. Now here, you walk in and they tell you, oh, that's Mr. Weda. That's a great man. They do not know whether you're walking on your own, or you have been loaded with a bomb, or your head has turned. You are the one who wants to bomb Standard, and you say, now, they think we can't bomb Standard? I've been the one who go and blow myself. So I walk in and they salute me. That fear, that it means the responsibility is for all of us. And we must say that we want to ensure that we are safe. That means you see these terrorists, most of them are not with us. We know them. You can clearly see when you see strangers. So that responsibility to us, and we should not fear, and we will pay the price, and we should be prepared to pay it until Kenya is safe.
That's the rhetoric. Just a minute. Just a minute. That's the rhetoric that you see the same United States he's talking about. Required to move from the right wing, which Kenya right now with its leadership is in,
to centrist,
to a more of a center left, which is the Obamas, who said we will make America safer by disengagement in Iraq, by disengagement in Afghanistan. They are ending wars. Number 2, in addition to that, if today a right-wing government was in power in the United States, they would probably be in a war in Syria, they were probably in a war in Iraq, in Iran, they probably have bombed Libya. So I think what happens, the broader approach, where you are more pro-human rights, anti-war, is appearing to make us safer. I have been to the United States twice in the last, since I became senator. And I've been with people who have Muslim names like myself. They will tell you the scrutiny is much less because they have already strengthened the necessary and put the necessary caveats. There are sheikhs who told me were burned from traveling into the US. Those advisories have been lifted. One was actually telling us that he's a Canadian, that he's actually been invited to White House. So therefore, I think the right-wing rhetoric of sacrifice, and because you're not the one making the sacrifice, there are families that the scars of war that are making the sacrifices. And I saw some of the parents saying that we should have just stopped at our border and strengthened and fortified our borders and integrity. Yeah. So therefore, there are multiple approaches to this, and this right-wing approach, which is pro-war, pro-this, and rhetorical, is what does not get us results. But not to say one thing, I have to also, say, as much as it is all our responsibility, whether we like the idea of politics or politicians, they are finally the people in charge of policy. They are finally the people who drive this process. Commitments, let's say into war, are things that are mandated by the Senate, by the National Assembly. They are not mandated on the streets, by representatives of the people. So therefore, eventually, it is the political class that must anchor a policy or strategy that appears to work. And that's why governments are evaluated on the basis of the success or otherwise of strategies, including security. So therefore, if we come to the next election where Kenya is facing severe terrorism problems, we will assess that government on that account. Right now, Goodwill Jonathan has a myriad of problems around Boko Haram, even in terms of his re-election. So I think whether we like it or not, it is the effectiveness of strategies of the government of the day. And what we do as opposition or as people who are in the minority, we present an alternative view. And I believe, and this is what has seemed to work in other countries, that the minority view about a broader security strategy that first and foremost focuses not on the words of Uhuru Kenyatta that we will stay there, a disengagement that is a phased disengagement and leave the Somalia to the Somalis. Ultimately, it is a problem that they must be able to mitigate and meander around. So therefore, eventually, we must be less of the right-wing rhetoric and more of the progressive, framework.
I was just going to respond very concisely. The purpose of these shows, Smart and Sophia, is to be as informative as possible. And so you have to be factual and substantive. In the case of 9/11 and Afghanistan, what happened is that America, during the Iraq and Iran war of the 1980s, which was a long-running war for almost 10 years, actually used Osama bin Laden and parts of Afghanistan to back their interest in that war. And after things changed during the Cold War, then they basically just absconded and left, Osama bin Laden and his gang, so to speak, to their own devices. And so this was retaliation. And the retaliation was even more swift and more effective because after the 1993 bombing of World Trade Center, by I think Timothy McVeigh. I think Timothy McVeigh's Oklahoma bombings, but the World Trade Center bombing was 1993, after which the system took it as a law enforcement issue, which was a mistake. And so we must really clarify all these issues in order to give all information to those watching and to understand the policy, not just to, on security matters, where I'd like to correct my friend Weda. This is not a thing for motivational speaking and those different things he does for students, etc., and pretty talk and all of that. This is damn serious policy stuff with very serious consequences.
Whether you must respond to that.
You can imagine the amount of money that was lost at 9/11.
That is serious.
Yes.
And also, if you take into consideration, for example, George Bush was my president. If you take, of course, if you take into consideration that George Bush, and he was my president for 6 years, a very painful presidency, if you may. If you imagine that he was spending $4 billion a week, then you really sober up to the reality of what war is. But having said all of that, where I differ with the senator on policy once again, in the case of Syria and Bashar al-Assad, I would have bombed him from here to Timbuktu. Bashar al-Assad and parts of also, I guess, what happened
now,
in Libya.
let's get a few things clear. One, Obama administration did not adopt the so-called right or left or middle, as you're saying. During his elections, it was very clear that we will hit terrorism by getting Osama bin Laden dead or alive. And he put his money, energy, troops looking for Osama. And they got him and killed him. And that was a game changer.
But we're saying the same thing we're saying.
Let me finish. In a good society, you talk, you listen.
You listen, yes.
Part of the things we have written here is listening skills. It's good for this country. So that the game changer here is we must get the Al-Shabaab in the base. When they bombed Nairobi embassy, U.S. embassy, we have not provoked anybody. They just said, you are a friend to U.S., you die. So that you are not safe. Even if you go under your bedroom, under the bed, with the terrorists, you are not safe. They will look for an excuse. They will say, and then this is not number two, it's not a religious thing. So that the moment we talk about, Hassan, you come up and think we are talking about Muslims, we are talking about Mombasa. We are talking about Kenyans, whether Muslim, whether Asians, whether Lugos, whether Kisses.
But they're calling
now
it a jihad.
That is, listening is a good, it's an art.
But
It is listening is an art, my brother.
It's an art, but you are so direct. You get out of
listening doesn't mean allowing you
to just you know run wrong.
So let me
run amok. Or to run amok.
You know, you're so unfactual. So
let me
unfortunately.
so that either way you run, the U.S. has shown us that the best way to fight terrorism is to attack them at their base and deal with it. And it appears it is working. The piracy problem solved. It was not solved through prayer. It was solved by saying, we are here. You try to do it.
Do you know
we get you. Let me
finish.
Let me finish.
Do you know the size of the US
I insist.
economy?
Number 3, where our soldiers are, die their families, their children. Now, where everybody in a country where everybody is scared now, and the terrorists are smiling all the way to the bank that Kenya is scared.
No one's talking about
that. Is, you are scared here, totally.
No, I mean,
that is where we need a leadership. Do you understand? That stands up. You remember when they bombed the Twin Tower? President Bush had to go there. If you see his photo, if you read Decision Points, his book, yes, if you read it, you will see a picture of George Bush there speaking. And he was standing on the rubble, speaking to the nation, telling them, I am here, we are together, we will deal with it. That is the day he said, you are either with us or against us.
He was a failure.
At this time, you talked about motivation. This is the time we stand together, we hold each other and say, we will overcome. We motivate each other. This is not the time of question.
Let me say this. Let me say
Yes,
Sophia.
Gentlemen, as you respond,
yes.
A very important question that even as we're watching John Allen's story that came in is about Somalia, which we've been touching on. But to go, to leave, or to stay?
Yeah, before the senator comes in, let me say something. You know, this fear-mongering by yourself. You know, you're total right-wing. And I don't know which part of Obama's campaign he was watching. Obama's campaign was succinct. I will disengage from war. He has ended some of the wars, that the military engagements of the United States. He reached out to the Muslim world. Some of his first inaugural trips were to Egypt and other countries in the Muslim world. He invited Muslim scholars, Muslim religious leaders, because Obama himself, by the right wing like Weda, was stigmatizing his middle name Hussein. They even said he was a Muslim to dissuade Americans from voting for him. So I don't know which strategy or which of Obama's campaign he looks at selectively. And Obama, looking for Osama bin Laden and getting him is different from continuing with the war. So even as we're talking to them, the US is disengaging from Afghanistan. So that's the reality of the day. But secondly,
coming back home.
Yes, coming back home. Thank you very much. Because I think what happens is why we have to discuss some of the strategies is because the impact on our local strategies. These guys were given this blueprint some years back by George Bush to the NSIS and some of these, you know, ethnic zealots, and they've applied it, you know, whole scale to this date. You know, the competence in this agency, the national security agencies must now be put into question. This cannot be an ethnic club. It has to diversify to bring in real, you know, expertise, real skill to reward competence. You do not stand a good chance just because the man in State House comes from your village. I think you must be able to reward people for the merit and the kind of input they bring into. Maybe if there was a bird's eye view as to some of these strategies, because these, you know, when you discuss things as a club of friends or a club of one group, you know, you tend to sometimes skew yourself from the larger picture. What diversity brings is the diversity of opinions. People have different socializations, cultural upbringing, different you know, intellectual depth, different areas of study, different areas of competence. So it comes in and it is able to enrich your strategies. There is always some value in diversity in life. So I think for me, a phased withdrawal out of Somalia, forget this right-wing, you know, rhetoric that we are there to stay. We are slowly mutating into an occupational force. And the minute that perception crystallizes in people's hearts and minds, particularly of the Somali people, yeah, that whole game is about winning the hearts and minds. So for me, a phased withdrawal that then but not just to disengage overnight. It is to replace a Kenyan soldier, an AMISOM soldier, with a member of the Somali National Army, trained, equipped, resourced, so that he or she now can be able to take over the security of Somalia in a manner that is more passionate.
In how long?
Time frame, these are things you have to look at your strategy, because you see, I remember even the same Obama said he was going to get out of Afghanistan immediately. It was not feasible. You say you're going to get out of Iraq immediately. It's not feasible. So you have to have now apply the competence. Let Brigadier Arya tell us. Let other security experts tell us. So how this phased withdrawal should take place and what is the kind of time frame, and then we stick to that time frame.
Just off the top of my head, I'd probably propose something like 3 years, give and take. So 3 years, give and take, as you're saying, with consultation with generals and commanders on the ground, with different factors and circumstances, give and take 3 years. But you must send out the message that we're not an occupier force. Allow me, because this is what I want to do, I want to put some contextualization into this discussion. Yesterday morning, Kenya time, a 37-year-old American, Floyd Mayweather, won 2,720 million shillings in 36 minutes. The boxing. Some of the guys, watch that.
So I should join boxing.
I mean, and this is a serious point.
Yeah.
The military budget of the United States, all right? You teach a lot of classes, you write a lot of things. I want you to get some of these things to contextualize and to inform. The military budget of the United States is bigger than the GDP of France, Italy, United Kingdom, Germany, and one more European country. The military budget alone. That is very important to understand, and if I can give you maybe another two, the city of London's economy is bigger than Kenya's entire GDP. Kenya is a country with 47 counties. England's currency is more than 100 times stronger than Kenyan currency. Why this is important, from a leadership perspective, from a policy perspective, we have got Kenyans going hungry in this country 50 years after independence. The reason you are doing a Harambe yesterday, you've got people building churches that they cannot roof. You've got a church, once it's roofed, they cannot have an instrument for the choir. This is the reality of this country. It shocks me, it disgusts me, it is unfortunate and sad, but this is the reality. You've got people in the army, in different forces, in companies saying, I'm going to employ your daughter, but bring a bribe of 10,000. And you've got Amze going to sell a cow to give a bribe for someone to be employed who has completed university, having gone to university through loans. This is the reality of Kenya as a third world country. And so when a leader stands on a public podium to equate America's, military policy to ours, and to try to mimic that, while a country is able to spend $4 billion a week on a war, America borrow from Japan and Chinese banks $1 billion a day. I think it is spurious, I think it is reckless, it's ridiculous. We must look at the solutions that are good for our people, which include securing the border, which include improving conditions under which police officers work, which improve giving the right facilitation to improve our response, our telephones, our communication lines, etc., and so that we can actually have a better life for our people. To take all the money and throw it in Somalia in the name of cowboyism is ridiculous, and it's even unpatriotic.
Let's look at those solutions.
It's unpatriotic.
As we go on, we have to get solutions. Let's look at those solutions.
I want to deal with what she said, the question she asked. Although, as a fine lawyer,
you can also deal with my facts.
What I mean is you stick to issues. You don't bring in, because when you bring in economics, you'd be surprised that I'm a qualified economist, qualified, truly trained. One of the most widely read people in Africa, widely. Now, the question was, when do we move out of Somalia? And the question is geared towards looking at a date. Military strategy cannot work on the basis of, we are moving up on Friday this week. Do you understand? Even if the country was moving out on Friday, it is not for a CORD rally or a Jubilee rally, where the commander-in-chief, you must know, when President Uhuru speaks as a commander-in-chief, as a Jubilee politician, as a president, as an economist, as a teacher, there are differences. So when the country is supposed to move out of Somalia would be when our country is safe, when it is strategically important to do so. Even Obama said, we will go there and close Guantanamo Bay. Hey, giving us a bad name. That was a good story when he was a civilian, talking as a civilian. Now the way court will be talking as civilians. When he went in, he was told, look, this is the reality. Commander-in-Chief, this is the reality, this is the reality, this is the reality. He is the one who said we cannot close it now. But he still says we will close it, we must close it. What is clear is that Kenya will definitely move out of Somalia. And we all wished they moved. Today is Monday. We wish they move on Wednesday. They park tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day for parking. Then Wednesday they come back. But we all agree that that is not only impractical, it is unstrategic and dangerous to us.
But who said that?
You seem to try to suggest. Ndolo seems to.
But what are we doing there even?
So,
what are we even doing there?
I don't
listen,
like this
lawyer.
Also, one of the things about lawyers.
Why don't you the economist? What are we doing there?
Don't distort the information. I said you have to look at the commanders on the ground. You have to have consultations. He said 2 to 3 years. Yeah. Which lawyer are you? Listen and comprehend what others say. No, you don't say people. Yes, he said to, and I said you have to have a you have to have a strategy of how the disengagement which is faced.
But that strategy.
You train the Somali National Army.
Why would you not listen?
No, the problem about you listen, but you don't understand.
I can also shout.
You listen, but it's not about shouting. But he's saying when
allow me.
We want to take a break.
It's annoying for you to pursue.
Okay.
Relative to a grenade, you will not be saying Wednesday.
Gentlemen,
as a moderator. You should allow.
Hang on. Okay. Can you bring sanity to this? Can you bring sanity to this?
Deliberately misrepresenting.
Gentlemen, let's do this. Let's take a short break.
Yeah, we should.
We'll be right back. Let's take a short break.
Wow.